OK, à Panem 360, je suis avec Godwin Friesen. Godwin Friesen est originaire des Prairies, mais vit à Montréal depuis quelques années. Il a remporté le concours de l'OSM en 2022. Godwin est pianiste, il est compositeur et donc intéressé au processus de création et à l'exécution. Hier, c'est-à-dire mercredi, pour le concert, le premier concert de la virée classique présenté gratuitement au pied du stade olympique, il a exécuté un mouvement d'une œuvre de Mikis Theodorakis, la symphonie numéro 2. Il a exécuté un mouvement très puissant, violent, et à l'intérieur duquel le piano est présenté comme soliste, mais aussi comme membre de l'orchestre. C'est pas un solo plus traditionnel. Le piano est imbriqué dans l'œuvre beaucoup plus, n'est-ce pas, Godwin?
Oui, c'est vrai. C'était bien que je n'étais pas en avant de l'orchestre, mais j'étais vraiment là-dedans. Et je faisais partie de l'équipe de l'orchestre.
C'est ça. Alors donc, le rôle de soliste est mêlé avec le rôle d'interprète.
Oui, exactement.
Mais si on avait été à la Maison symphonique, par exemple, est-ce qu'on aurait mis le piano devant ou on l'aurait mis dedans, dans le milieu?
Devant, dans ce cas-là.
OK,
oui.
donc c'est sûr que ça marchait très bien avec l'œuvre.
Oui.
You know, it did fit very well with this piece because the piece is done that way. But if you have been, it would have been in Maison Symphonique, maybe you would be in front, but at the same time, the result would be having exactly the same.
That's right.
More
for the piece that we will do on Saturday, which is also by the same composer, the piano will be in front of the orchestra because it's a slightly more soloistic role in that case. But I think it's best that the piano be in the orchestra for this specific piece of Wednesday.
Yeah, because it's built that way. You know, the intention of the composer were there.
Oui, je l'aime bien. En fait, j'étais vraiment surpris d'apprendre qu'il a composé comme une millaine d'œuvres. Est-ce qu'on
Un millier.
Un millier d'œuvres. Et ça montre qu'il compose vraiment rapidement parce qu'on ne peut pas passer des mois sur chaque œuvre si on compose autant.
Comme Villa-Lobos, par exemple, qui faisait des...
Et ça se voit dans la composition parce qu'on voit plus de patterns, on voit plus de répétitions, on a aussi plus l'idée de une musique qui est improvisée. Parce qu'il a improvisé et il a écrit. C'est ça que je pense de ces compositions.
Ouais. Sauf que c'est encore plus proche du geste de l'improvisation parce que tous les compositeurs improvisent leur œuvre. Ben, des fois, il y a des planifications ou des stratégies de composition différentes, mais grosso modo, l'improvisation est toujours fondamentale, non?
Oui, et pour moi, en étant
pour vous, justement, pour vous qui êtes compositeur et pianiste, l'improvisation, quel est votre rapport?
Il y a toujours l'équilibre entre l'improvisation et la planification. Parce qu'on c'est vraiment passionnant les moments improvisés. It gets right to the heart of what I, as a musician, am feeling in a moment.
Yeah, because your unconscious is speaking. So this is why. It's come from the heart and from the unconscious.
Exactly. Now, if we only did the improvising, then we would find probably, like I said already, more repetition and more patterns. So then you need to take a kind of overseer approach and say, okay, now how do we take this idea that occurred out of improvisation and then polish it and form it into something? So I have to do both work, and then sometimes you've polished and you've done it, and now you say, what comes next? And you just grab it out of thin air, and you're back to that intuitive improvisational approach.
Yeah, I see. So this process is quite interesting for you because sometimes you have to play your own, not sometimes, but most of the time you play your own pieces, and you play pieces from all the repertoire also. So how do you spare time between your composition life and your pianist life?
I feel like I'm at the early stages of discovering what the balance is going to look like in my career. Up until this point, I have been quite focused on piano performance throughout my music study. I haven't actually done a degree in composition, so I've been really focused on the performance. And then sometimes these wonderful moments, I get to have a composing deadline. And that's when I need to prioritize composing. And just like I put in the hours for practicing, I say, okay, for this period of time, I'm going to devote 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day. That's what I did this summer. I have to spend 2 hours a day on composing. And but then I don't compose for a while. So one thing I'm excited for is I don't need to fill my whole schedule with performing, because when I have a gap between performances, that's when I can do my independent composing work. So that's what I'm excited for.
So until now, I understand that when you have a nice time to create, you take it, but most of the time you're involved as an interpreter. You know?
That's right. But so far, as far as my career, my professional title, it would be more likely concert pianist than.
This is what you are. This is what we perceive. But you know, excellent, fantastic pianists like Marc-André Hamelin composed for himself, or you know, it's been like that since the Romantic eras. The Rachmaninov, Scriabin, all those guys were pianists first, and they did pianistic pieces too. So you know, always very close to the piano even before being orchestral. Is it your case?
Yes, my own composing is very personal. It's what I like to play. It's what I would like to listen to. So I think there's a big difference between a performer composer and someone who is just focused on composing. And we had this split, I think, in the 20th century, where performers and composers started being separate tasks. And then sometimes you lose the intuitive or the idiomatic maybe quality of compositions. So and the connection to the audience. Now that maybe that's a bit harsh of a criticism, and a lot of composers are really still connected to the audience. Theodorakis is a great example.
Well, yeah. Can you just tell us a few words about the next Theodorakis piece you're going to perform on Saturday? Just, you know, explain to us the challenges as a player and the nature of the piece itself, why you decided to play it.
Oui, c'est une pièce vraiment différente que celle de mercredi,
Oui.
parce que c'est simplement un orchestre à cordes avec piano et flûte. Donc un orchestre vraiment plus petit, plus intime. C'était pas moi qui l'a choisi, mais j'ai dit bien sûr quand ils m'ont demandé à le jouer, à l'apprendre. Le flûtiste, c'est Timothy Hutchins, qui est
le
légende.
De l'OSM.
Oui. Et c'est presque la musique de chambre, cette pièce, parce que la partie piano n'est pas virtuose comme mercredi. C'est un peu plus simple, et il y a un beau mélange de sons avec les cordes, la flûte. On ne doit pas jouer trop fort parce que la flûte doit être entendue. C'est aussi moins... il y a des sons moins bizarres que mercredi. C'était une explosion de sons. Samedi, ça va être un peu plus familier, je pense. Avec Il y a des moments riches, luxurious. Il y a aussi le deuxième mouvement est rapide et un peu classique même. Il y a un saveur de musique classique.
Maintenant, parlons de ta propre pièce.
OK. Ma nouvelle composition, cet été, j'ai ajouté un mouvement à une pièce que j'ai déjà commencée il y a 5 ans, qui est inspirée d'un psaume. Psaume 19 qui parle des cieux qui racontent la gloire de Dieu. C'est ça le premier.
19 de l'Ancien Testament, de où?
Oui, oui, de l'Ancien Testament, oui.
Okay.
C'est un poème qui parle de la nature, en fait. Comment la nature, avec sa brillance, cette brillance qui parle, qui donne gloire à Dieu, c'est ça. Le premier mouvement, c'est vraiment, on parle des cieux, on a des nuages dans ma composition, la brillance du soleil, mais aussi il y a la nuit avec des étoiles. Le deuxième mouvement, c'est sur les lignes du texte qui parlent du soleil qui traverse le ciel. Et j'ai essayé quelque chose que j'ai jamais vu dans la musique avec le rythme. J'ai un temps qui continue à travers tout le mouvement, mais je le divise différemment. Donc, c'est c'est un peu compliqué, mais c'est 1, 1, 1, puis 1, 2, 1, 2, puis 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Il y a 5.
Donc, c'est des mesures composées, quoi.
Exact. We go all the way to 9, and right in the middle of the piece where the sun would be at its peak, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's really athletic, and then we reduce the division until we're back to 3s and back to 2s and back to 1s.
And so it ends the way it started.
Exactly, with the same little sparkling of stars.
Well, we see that the changes of beat, changes of rhythm, changes of metric into the same piece more and more. That's cool.
Yes. I mean, I learned this idea, or I thought of it from seeing my percussionist friend practicing, just like this, practicing cross rhythms, going from the 1 to the 2 to the 3, and rather than keeping the subdivision the same, going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, keeping the larger beat the same and dividing it differently, which can be very difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to make it slightly quicker in order to fit those beats into the same chunk.
Exactly. So it's a very interesting process. And within your developing your harmonic and your melodic proposals.
That's right. There was this rhythmic idea at the base of it, but I needed to make it make sense with all the melodic and harmonic thing that I was doing.
There's a frame. It becomes a frame of what happens after on piano.
Yes, for piano, and it's actually for piano, violin, viola, and cello. So there's the extra challenge of how do I get the whole group on these same rhythmic changes.
And who's playing with you?
We have 3 other young musicians. Sophie Vandersloot is a member of the orchestra, and so is Sebastian, I'm forgetting his last name, on viola. And then we have Justin Saunier, who was another prize winner at the OSM competition on violin. I've played with Sophie once before in a OSM chamber music concert, and the others, this is my first time, but it's been really a great time working with them. They're enthusiastic and great players. Tell
us about this specific trio from Dmitri Shostakovich, and a fabulous composer.
Yes, he wrote this trio when he was just 16 or 17.
Youth work.
Yes. it was I remember learning that it was his application composition to get into the Moscow Conservatory, something like this. So really just the music just comes out of him very naturally, and you can tell that it's not an obsessively constructed work. It's just like we were talking about before, improvisation and intuitive composing. It's really so much of that.
Yeah. It's fabulous because, you know, I don't know how he could have done it during all the Stalinian regime, and he could survive through that and express his emotions all the time, because as you say, it's not only structured, all his pieces are like that. You know, most of his repertoire is always deeply emotional at the same time, very, very well structured, but you know, the structure are serving his emotions. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, we had to make the decision between is this early music similar to his later music? Should we play it with the same kind of starkness that we get later on, or do we follow the very romantic qualities of this early piece and just lean into that?
So you take the second option.
We are mostly doing the second option. It's a crowd pleaser. It is an exciting and beautiful piece.
Cool. It's very cool. So the trio will be it's a sort of reduced ensemble.
That's right.
I see. So you're going to spend the weekend with them, which is a good idea. And it started very well on Wednesday, because the introduction for you is really great. But you play often. Well, you live in Montreal. You have chosen Montreal to be. People can choose Toronto or other big cities in Canada, and you're from the West, but finally you adopted the French place.
Yes. Oui, j'aime Montréal beaucoup. Je suis venu ici pour faire la maîtrise à l'Université de Montréal. J'ai commencé à apprendre le français seulement quelques ans avant, donc j'étais prêt à avoir des cours en français. Pour moi, je suis passionné avec le français.
Ah oui, ben c'est vrai, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de Canadiens anglais qui viennent des prairies, qui viennent de l'Ouest, mais qui restent dans une sorte de communauté anglo.
Oui.
And also, c'est la faute aussi des francophones. Ils leur parlent toujours en anglais plutôt que de parler en français.
C'est vrai, on doit être courageux à parler en français quand on veut. Oui, donc pour moi, mon amour pour la langue, mon amour pour cette ville artistique, et j'ai un frère qui est ici aussi, donc j'ai un peu de famille ici.
Oui.
Et bien sûr, la connexion avec l'orchestre grâce au concours OSM qui m'a donné plusieurs occasions à jouer ici. Je me sens vraiment bien accueilli par tout cet organisme musical.
All right. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Ciao.